Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 23 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we are headed to my home Grand Prix for the 4th season in a row. Montreal here for the Canadian Grand Prix, of course, fresh off of a lot of momentum building for this Red Bull Ford team. We have come off of 3 back-to-back podiums, of course. We got the 2 wins in a row from Imola and Monaco, went to Miami, fought for a win after a late red flag, ended up 2nd place at the end of the day as things have really turned into a good direction because, of course, we started the season a bit off the pace. We were able to sneak a podium here and there, but we didn't have pace capable of fighting against the McLaren. And we bring in a few more upgrades this weekend, and it's supposed to be a wet race here in Montreal, so that is very exciting. At least I should say the majority of the race. It is going to have a dry portion at some point, but you can see I was getting good practice here in FP1, as it was also raining in practice. So pretty happy with the pace in the car, and the thing is, in the dry weather, the McLaren, although we have continued to make upgrades, the McLaren is still on an equal tire, or a faster tire, just so much faster than the Red Bull Ford is when it comes to, you know, dry laps. So the goal this weekend is, of course, setting ourselves up really well in qualifying and just trying to do what we can by, you know, potentially running away in the wet and try to build up as much of a gap as we possibly can, because once it gets dry in this Grand Prix weekend, I think we're going to be losing a lot of time to the McLarens, like a lot of time. So we're still not quite close enough yet to just straight up beat them. We need some kind of advantage, and the wet weather is exactly that. But it all starts with a good qualifying effort, putting us in position to do any of that. So Q1, P19 was my first lap. That was a little bit scary, but I would improve by over a second, and that would put us through into Q2 without really any issues at all. So I was pretty happy with that. P7 on the board, Aiden Jackson at the top step there. Cali Mayer, Pierre Gasly, Jogue Wanu, Porcher, and Lawson out. The Connor Sport cars are starting to look better. Butler through into Q2. My first lap in Q2, we crossed the stripe. This time only P14, so I would have to make another second lap attempt here to try and find a little bit of time, and I didn't find any actually until late in the lap. Right here you're going to see a good gain of about half a second and then some as we go through the final chicane, so this will be enough to put us through into Q3. Now pay attention to the Ferraris. The Ferraris have brought some more upgrades this weekend. They are making significant upgrades over the last few episodes, and they seem to be going on a just absolute tear in the R&D, and they're showing no signs of stopping. I think another episode or two, they're going to be a huge threat if they continue what they're doing. Here we are in Q3. We're out early because rain is supposed to hit towards the end of this qualifying session. So we're out as early as we can, trying to find some lap time. Now this first lap was a bit sloppy. You already saw, you know, 2 missed apexes and through the hairpin. It wasn't terrible, but it could have been better through there as well. And we go through the chicane okay, trying to set ourselves up for another second lap attempt here in Q3. We're going to cross the stripe and still go P6. I was pretty happy with that, but definitely some more time on the table, and we immediately start finding that time. We find 0.2 of a second, and we wouldn't gain anything really through here. We actually lose it, but we would gain it back in the hairpin, and we were up to 2.5 again through the final chicane. Look at the gain right there, another 10th or so in it, right up against the wall of champions just about now. We cross the stripe. It's going to put us P4, and that's it, because the rain would come. That would wrap up qualifying. So it's Albon, Jackson, Verstappen, all within half a tenth. Look at the pace of the Red Bull Ford. Verstappen right there. We are only 2.5 tenths off as well, as you see the rest of the top 10. We're going to get ready to go racing in a wet start to a Canadian Grand Prix.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to the variant of this track back in 1978, and it was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's a tricky circuit to tackle in wet conditions, with top speed still of critical importance down the long back straight. There are 2.7 miles and 14 corners overall on this circuit that in the dry can see average lap speeds of around 130 miles per hour. We'll be lucky to get anywhere near that today. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Alex Albon leads us away from pole position, and it's Aiden Jackson alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Golden Boy, Russell, Norris, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Iwasa, Hughes, Verstappen, Ocon, Butler, Sonoda, Gasly, Joe, Teo Porcher, Liam Lawson, Drugovic and Callie Mayer. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today.
This weather is right down your alley here today, Gary, and home race, of course, as well. What are the expectations?
Yeah, the weather sucks, but I know the home crowd, of course, loves me, and if they want me to win, I think they'll like this. Ready to roll then, from P3, Verstappen, hit with a grid penalty. As we are ready to roll here in Montreal, the conditions are treacherous, wet tires start for the first time in quite some time in this F123 career mode, and you're going to see right here, rain is supposed to stop in the tail end of this Grand Prix. This is going to be an interesting one. Let's get ready to roll in Canada. The formation lap underway.
Right then, the formation lap has started, and I must say the weather conditions aren't the best today for visibility and for grip. As each driver performs this lap, they'll be wanting to settle in and concentrate, as this race, in these conditions, will require a lot of focus.
Everybody, of course, starting on the wet tire, looking for just the best start they can get. It's all about getting the tires to grip up and reduce the wheel spin as much as we can on this run down towards turn number 1, which has created some chaos in the past in Canada.
So as all the cars reform the grids, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
All right, mate, you know these streets. Get it done in the wet.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the hard work this weekend, guys. Let's have fun and stay safe and stay dry. We're ready to roll then. Mercedes maybe showing a bit of improvement here after a bit of a fall off in the last few episodes now. Devin Butler at the back of the grid there in the Connor Sport. Now, he made Q2, of course, but as they are all going to roll up to the back of the grid. We're ready to go racing in Montreal. The Canadian Grand Prix, it's 5 red lights, and it's going to be lights out, and we're underway from the Canadian Grand Prix. It's a good start for both the McLarens. A bit of wheel spin from myself. Everybody, of course, struggling to get that grip, and I brake way too early into turn 1. Russell around the outside now. The 2 McLarens continue wheel to wheel, but I don't think it's going to last long. And sure enough, Albon out in front. He's trying to get back to the top step of the podium. It's been since race 3 of the season since he's won. Of course, he's been in position to win several more. He just hasn't been able to finish the deal. Of course, the red flags and the racing in Miami and the strategy and safety car timing, of course, when it came to Monaco, has really hindered his performance. Verstappen, when it finally seemed he had the pace to go for his first podium, he's got a big grid penalty, so he's going to have to get really aggressive here today. We've already pulled a nice gap on George Russell and are putting pressure on Aiden Jackson here down towards the chicane. We know the wet weather, and especially the extreme wet weather, which is kind of what we're in right now. This opens the door of opportunity. We are way quicker than drivers around us when it comes to these conditions now. We know when it dries up, McLaren's going to be quicker. We go too deep into the hairpin, and that allows Jackson to fight back up the inside and even clear me on the exit of the corner. A little bit of contact there on his rear wing. We'll swing to the right side. We're going to drag race, but it's not going to be much of a drag race quite yet, but hold on. The McLaren's going to fight back down this long straight away towards the chicane. I don't want to give it up there as I hit my right sides into the grass. He goes defensive into the corner. We slip out the rear. We save it, but we struggle for a grip here on this opening lap of the Canadian Grand Prix, but we at least keep everything under us and continue on in the right direction. But a wild first lap there, just trying to pass Aiden Jackson, so now it's okay. The mode of just trying to settle in, get a rhythm going. We know we have the pace in the wet. We were able to put the pressure on the McLaren, so we know this is going to go into our direction. And right now, Alex Albon out in front of this race. As I have a bit of a slip there of the rear again, but we would continue to lap 3, marching our way forward, but yellow flags actually in the background, and it's a Ferrari. It's Charles Leclerc. This is 3 consecutive races with heartbreak for a Ferrari driver. It has just been miserable for them, and they continue to bring upgrades, but not going to matter when they crash their cars. And now Tsunoda's running into the back of Leclerc. Of course, the Leclerc not crashing the car. He's got a mechanical issue. This is going to bring out a virtual safety car, as there's debris on the track as well, and that's going to cause a full-blown safety car to be deployed. So safety car deployed here now, and we are going to go back around the track. There's no strategy needed. We're all staying out on the wet tire there. You know, it's pretty common sense. Tsunoda's in, Leclerc out of the race, of course. It's not been good for Ferrari lately. Can they turn things around in these coming episodes? Leclerc made it clear at the start of the year, if Ferrari doesn't get things going in the right direction this season, he's gone. He will leave Ferrari. As we come to lap 6, still under safety car, briefly through the field, you can see Russell, Sainz, Norris, as well as Piastri, Jake Hughes, Verstappen, our teammates, moved up, and Ocon in the top 10. Butler up to P11. I think I said Butler was rounding out the back of the grid earlier. I meant, of course, Cali Mayer. Tsunoda, of course, the worst running there with that damage, but a great drive currently from the F1 Williams rookie of Jake Hughes. Looking for some points here today again in Canada. Now we're ready to roll once again here from Montreal, coming to lap 7. Albon controls the pace, and he is taking off down the road from his teammate of Aiden Jackson, as they're both tied 3 wins apiece right now for McLaren. Of course, 2 wins for Red Bull. Jackson, a lockup into turn 1, and unfortunately I just wasn't ready for it, so I was driving deep into the corner and unfortunately couldn't take advantage, but hold on, he's still struggling. Up the inside we go, wheel to wheel, and he's not even going to fight it. Up into second place, Jackson struggling hard in these conditions. We of course had a 1v1 with him in the rain conditions in Imola. We were able to run him down by like 8 seconds, drive away, say see you later, get our first win of the season. But lap 7, Mark comes over the radio, said it's time for inters, as I'm slipping and sliding around still, but you can see the rain had let up quite a bit. So we're going to come into the pits here. Surprisingly, no one else is going to come in. Both the McLarens stay out, and everybody around us is going to stay out. It looks like there might be a car or 2 coming in behind us now. We're going to come in though, take these vents off, put those inters on, and there you see that's Oscar Piastri. Looks like Jake Hughes as well, and one of the Alpines is in. So a few drivers pit, but nowhere near the amount that I expected. And now we have a big opportunity to get the race lead without having to actually pass anybody on track, because we're going to be able to make up some time depending on when Albon pits and as well as Aiden Jackson. And look at this, a lap later, we are hauling the mail compared to the cars in front of us, and the McLarens and several others have stayed on the racetrack. Tail Porcher, he's just pitted now, so quite surprising to see this, and we continue to just make up some big time here now to the back of Yuki Tsunoda. I actually struggled to pass Tsunoda all the way to this late sector 2 section going down towards the hairpin. It would take me to actually get an overtaking opportunity on the young Japanese driver there behind Felipe Drugovich there for that BMW. Fernando Alonso, of course, playing a big role within that team. Look at the grip difference. To the left side we go. One of the McLarens is in. That's Aiden Jackson. Aiden Jackson into the pit lane right now. He'll put on those inters. So here's going to be, you know, the big thing is, are we going to come out ahead of him or are we going to be behind him? Well, the answer is we are going to be out in front of him quite considerably. Piastri sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Zhou Guanyu in the Williams just in front of myself. P70 runs right now. We'll swing to the inside. We passed Jackson earlier in the same spot. We'll pass Zhou there as well. Pierre Gasly will set him up for a move here into the chicane. Thank you very much. And you can see Jackson, he's right at the tail end of this group of cars. So he definitely lost time. Not a whole lot of time, but it's enough to make me confident that we're going to be leading this race when Alex Albon eventually pits, and he hasn't pitted. Neither has obviously Liam Lawson in the Alfa Romeo Haas, but neither has Carlos Sainz of the 2 Mercedes of Russell and Lando Norris, who currently run 2nd and 4th. At lap 12, it's still Albon out on the racetrack. George Russell and Carlos Sainz are just now pitting to go off of those wet tires to put on the inters. So we're going to go up into P3. They're going to be nowhere close to us. They're not even going to be a threat. So I was feeling pretty happy just setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Jackson in 4th, and look at the gap difference, 6.7 seconds between himself and I, and that's mainly because of just pitting earlier. Albon and Norris finally pit at the end of lap 12, but I mean, we're already ahead. We have taken the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix. We have done it tactically here by just pitting, you know, several laps earlier, which I was quite surprised to see the AI push it as late as they did. Jackson, however, coming through to set the quickest lap, and he was closing in on me. Now, we set the fastest lap after him. We took it back, but look at the gap. It was over 6 seconds. It's now down to 5.5. And Jackson's teammate Alex Albon came out behind Jackson, so now he's trying to navigate around him, but it is difficult for AI specifically to overtake each other in the wet conditions, unless there's like a big speed difference, of course. But you can see as these laps are going on, past the halfway point at this point here in Canadian Grand Prix, and the conditions are starting to improve quite drastically. It's really just a light sprinkle on the racetrack at this point. The gap slowly getting smaller, down to 5.2 seconds between myself and the British driver of Jackson, but it would go back up to about 5.5 seconds, and we were kind of keeping it between the 5 and 5.5 seconds for a large chunk of these laps right here, and it was actually starting to grow as the rain had finally stopped on lap 23. The question now is quite simple. How long until the track dries? As we're coming towards lap 25, you can see it's just slowly starting to get drier and drier, and the gap now going up to 6.5 seconds as we're going to go through the grid here on Canadian Grand Prix.
Owen out in front here with 10 laps to go in this Canadian Grand Prix as he's trying to be the first Canadian to win in his home race since Gilles Villeneuve all the way back there, of course, in the past millennium, as he continues to try and manage this gap over Aiden Jackson.
Owen is hoping it stays wet for as long as possible here. We know the McLaren is a rocket in the dry.
Due to the changing conditions we've seen today, there's some big gaps between some cars, of course. Sainz is 7 seconds back from Russell, but has both Norris and Piastri not far behind.
Then Verstappen a good 6 seconds back from the Aston Martin. How about Jake Hughes and Devon Butler? However, both currently on track to score some points. Connor Sport still has yet to score a point this year.
Lawson as well, not far behind Butler. A rough day again for Alpine, however, as that team continues to struggle.
There's some rumours floating around about them too. Lotus could be looking to come in and take over the team as soon as next year if they can't get things turned around.
And there you have through the grid here as Callie Mayer, tail Portier around out the back of the grid. I forgot to mention, Ayumu Iwasa had a mechanical failure as well. He was out of the Grand Prix. Did not spark anything out of that. No virtual safety car, no safety car, etc. But yeah, I mean, the track continuing to dry, the pace continuing to increase. Devon Butler actually has a spin on lap 28, but look at the track conditions in just about a lap, how much they've changed. It's time. The time to pit is now. You can see myself lap 29 just from when we saw the last frame of my car to this. It is very much so time for a dry tire. We unfortunately do not have softs available, so we have to take the mediums. And as soon as this track dried up, look at Jackson. He sliced the gap down to 4.9 seconds in a matter of a lap and a half. That's where the concern starts to build. We come in, we put on the mediums. Fortunately for us, there's no sign of a McLaren in the pit lane. So Aiden Jackson, Alex Albon, they're going to stay on track for an extra lap here at least. Verstappen's now in, and so is Oscar Piastri. They'll be moving on to either a set of softs or a set of mediums, and I really wish we saved a set of softs at this point because we're not going to have that luxury. And you can see Piastri and Verstappen do. Fortunately, they're far enough behind. It won't matter. And look at us slicing through immediately, passing Norris for 5th. Carlos Sainz, you're up next now. We would run him down on the DRS straight. He's going to be pitting right here, and everybody in front of us is pitting. The McLarens have double stacked. That's going to hurt Albon big time. And now the question is, what is going to be the situation with Jackson? And there it is. He's on softs. So this is going to be spicy. We got 5 laps to go in this Canadian Grand Prix, in this changing conditions kind of Grand Prix. It's been fantastic racing here today. And the gap is 5 seconds with 4 laps remaining. If it wasn't a McLaren in second, the concern would not be real. But it's a McLaren with a quicker tire and a significantly quicker car in dry conditions chasing me down, and the gap was slicing down. It wasn't just coming down, you know, casually. No, it was hauling the mail down. It was down to 3.5 seconds, coming to just 3 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Aiden Jackson is absolutely flying. We got a taste of what they, of course, have been able to do in dry conditions this season, and they are showing it again. And yeah, Jackson is absolutely flying here. This is going to turn into a race. It's not over by any means. We are going to have some company here on this final lap, it looks like. Coming to 2 to go. The gap down to 1.6 seconds, 1.5. He is absolutely flying through the chicane right there, gained 2/10 alone. And now it's about to be game on because Jackson, as we go through this first chicane here on lap 34, look at this gap continue to come down. Actually, it goes up a little bit, but it would come down as the rest of the lap progresses. And now He's within DRS as we approach the final lap here in the Canadian Grand Prix. As we go down the back straightaway, you can see 0.8 of a second the gap. I mean, absolute blistering pace right here from Aiden Jackson as we head down towards the final chicane. He's looking for win number 4. He's trying to go back to back like he won his first 2 Grand Prix of the season, and here he is. Final lap underway in Canada, and it's game on, and he sets the fastest lap. I mean, over a second quicker than me, who just set my personal best of the session. He's absolutely flying. I'm running as hard as I can without wrecking the car at this point, as hard as I comfortably can, as we go down into the chicane, trying to defend over the young British driver. Aiden Jackson has quickly turned into a superstar here in Formula 1, and he is proving it now as we go through this left-right chicane. Jackson's ready to pounce. We have a DRS zone right here. I'm trying my best to save as much battery as I can, but here comes Aiden Jackson. The rear wing open. Where do we go? He goes left. We cover him off into the braking zone there. That might have been a bit of an aggressive block, but the job's done. We stay ahead. Jackson, but that straight line speed of the McLarens is absolute on rails. Up the inside he goes, and he nearly clears as we lunge it deep into the corner to make sure we stay at least alongside as we exit the final corner. He's going to have the DRS, unfortunately. We clear him. We try to run away, but it's not going to be enough. Jackson's right on us. He looks to the right side. We try to cover it off. It's not enough. And there we go. Aiden Jackson says, see you later, down the back straightaway. He goes into deployment mode. Can we do anything through the chicane? Hustling it through, nearly spinning it around. We save it, but Jackson is gone, and Jackson has taken the win of the Canadian Grand Prix. Oh my goodness. If that's something that doesn't defeat you, I don't know what does. He just drove us down from 5 seconds back. The pace of that McLaren is absolutely insane. Lawson, driver of the day. We lost the Canadian Grand Prix.
That's it for another magnificent Canadian Grand Prix, and they've hung on to take a sublime victory here today. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
I want to know if that was as easy as it looked. An absolute masterclass today.
Aiden Jackson is turning into a megastar here in Formula 1, and now he's got a shot to win a world title. I mean, let's be real here. I can't believe what he just pulled off right there. The pace of that McLaren was unbelievable, and that showcases that, you know, in the last 4 Grand Prix, we've won 2 in a row, and we've now finished second twice in a row. There's pace in the Red Bull Ford, but there is still so much further to go to be legitimately a threat with McLaren. We are able to capitalize on a lot of opportunities in these last 4 races. That's what these last 4 races have been. Very opportunist. Oh my god, my English is terrible. Opportunistic moments we have had, basically, and we've capitalized on them. But Jackson, you know, got exactly what he needed. If the rain would have stopped 1 lap later, we win the Grand Prix. So it stings to lead the last half of your home Grand Prix and then lose it on the final lap after the guy in second runs you down by 5 seconds in 4 laps. That's tough. We still gain points on the championship lead. That's what's important. Verstappen, again, it's just not been his season. He's still down the order quite a bit, and we're 130 back from Red Bull, who increases, or from McLaren, who increases their championship lead. Next episode, it's the Hungarian Grand Prix. I will see you guys then. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.